I am with Pat Martin. Thank you for planning time with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Let's go for a run. 31 miles.
31 miles.
Yeah.
That's the length of all the trails in Terre Haute?
No, the length of the trails in Terre Haute, we're up to 34, almost 35 miles right now.
35.
So you can do an ultra marathon. You can do a 50-kilometer run here in Terre Haute without repeating anything whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
And not many communities can say that, particularly for one of our size of only 60,000 people. So right now we're at we're right just east of the Twig Rest area. The Jones Trailhead extends 0.6 of a mile to the east from here, and then to the west, the National Road Heritage Trail goes another 7.5 miles. And
now that takes it to downtown.
Takes it to downtown through the heart of the campus, through the heart of Indiana State University's campus, to 4th and Cherry Street, or old US 40, and we're only a half a mile from the river there. And then we've got the Wabash, along the Wabash River, we have the National Road Heritage Trail in Fairbanks Park, and that's approximately a mile long too. We have plans in the works to extend the Riverfront Trail at least another 1 to 2 miles next year. That'll be an easy construction.
And of the 7 miles to 4th and Cherry,
7.5.
7.5 miles to 4th and Cherry, the distance on the railroad right-of-way directly, the old Pennsylvania Railroad, is
5.5 from here, but if you add what we've added over here, you add another 0.6. So 6.1 miles we're using of the original rail bed, and the 6.1 miles of the National Road Heritage Trail is the backbone for the system, because this is what we use to create the system, and then we have lines radiating out from this backbone in a north-south, east-west direction throughout the entire city. When we were designing the National Road Heritage Trail, we came to a barrier point, if you will, where we had an unwilling landowner. So what we did was we just talked to the adjacent landowner about going onto their property, just deviating off, and actually it worked out for the best. We offered, it was agricultural land at the time, it was maybe a 20-acre farm field, and it was of marginal value. I mean, the soils were not great for growing, a lot of problems with it. He wasn't making that much money off of it, so he was going to develop it as an apartment complex. And we said, well, if you'll grant us an easement for the trail onto your property, we'll give you free sewer tap-ons for 10 years. Well, we didn't know that they were going to build a $40 million complex. So actually it worked out good. I mean, they got the better end of the deal in terms of they didn't pay sewer tap-ons for a $40 million complex. But then we got a better deal because we've got a huge windfall in terms of property tax generation, and we also got a huge windfall in terms of the number of people that have the National Road Heritage Trail literally at their door. So they walk out their door with their bicycle or their running shoes or their walking shoes, and immediately they're there. So it's like having, some of these people grow up wanting to have a golf course in their backyard. Well, instead you've got a 7.5 mile trail in your backyard that eventually could go clear across the state of Indiana. We've got a missing link in downtown Terre Haute where the trail ends at 4th and Cherry Street. We have approximately a half a mile that we have to cross US 41. Across US 41, we have to connect to the Government Center complex. We have to cross 1st Street also to be able to get to Fairbanks Park. So we've got a half-mile missing link to connect us to the river. On the other side of Chamberlain Road is where the National Road Heritage Trail of Terre Haute ends. And then the National Road Heritage Trail across Indiana hopes to begin.
Okay, yes, yes.
Where the National Road Heritage Trail across Indiana, that not-for-profit group, is advocating taking all of our rail trail corridors that extend to Richmond, Indiana, and to build one continuous trail and greenway system, non-motorized transportation system all the way from the Illinois state line, Illinois-Indiana state line, to the Indiana-Ohio state line. Now we've gone from zero. I mean, this section of the trail was open to traffic in October of 2001. So we went from 0 trails, no trails, to 34, 35 miles in just a little about 11 years, which isn't bad. And
that's great.
Yeah, and of those trails that we have, those miles of trails we only have 2 miles of those are what I would call share the road. The remainder of them are what I call real trails. In other words, they're truly separated from the traffic, which make it a lot safer to use for people that want to run. The only shared section we have is on Ohio Boulevard, historic Ohio Boulevard, constructed in 1921. 6 years ago we went in. Ohio Boulevard travel lanes were 18 feet wide, so what we did was we narrowed that down to 2 12-foot travel lanes and gave ourselves extra room for bicycle lanes. And people can run on the sidewalk, but it turns out most of the runners like to run in the bicycle lanes because they're not hopping curbs all the time. So yeah, it's been wildly popular, Deming Park is our biggest park. I think it's 225 acres, something like that. 2 years ago we completed the Poplar Street Trail, which connects Deming to Dobbs, so you can go back and forth between the two of those on a bicycle or by foot, completely separated from traffic. What we're not showing is inside of Dobbs Park, there's actually a whole series of trails in there inside of Dobbs Park, but they're not paved. They're dirt trails, are what they are. And they're not handicapped accessible too. And part of this is a nature preserve. Department of Natural Resources has a nature preserve back here, and we manage the nature preserve for them. And there's no construction anywhere here. And then we have what I would call 2 custom trails too, at the Memorial Stadium property, where Indiana State's football stadium is. We created the Indiana Mile. This is somewhat of what I would call a kitschy trail, in that it's exactly 1 mile around, and it's also exactly in the shape of the state of Indiana, wiggles and squiggles and all. It's a lot of fun on that trail. We had a first road race on that trail 4 years ago we had a first road race on it. And you're doing all these wiggles and squiggles when you're down in from Mount Vernon to Evansville.
Yes.
And some woman was in front of me, and she said, "Who's the idiot that designed this?" She was right in front of me, and I didn't say anything. I just laughed, because they're going back and forth like this, and there are no straight lines until you get over by Brookville and then head north toward Fort Wayne, and then you've got straight lines up there. But anyway, that's one of our custom trails. Another custom trail that we created this year, we opened it up in June of this year, is at the Maple Avenue Nature Park. Maple Avenue Nature Park is a former brownfield site. It was an illegal burning landfill. We converted it into a nature park, 25 acres with a 12-acre lake, 8-acre lake right now because of the drought. But we have a 25-acre park there, and we have a 0.6 of a mile loop. Actually, it's 1 kilometer, exactly 1 kilometer, 0.61 for those of you that are European and understand the metric system. But we have a 1 kilometer loop there, which is absolutely perfect. Now the Indiana Mile is used, it's highly popular. We call it a Stephen Jobs Trail. in that people wanted it, but they didn't know it until we created it. But with that 1 mile loop on the Indiana Mile, a lot of people like to get out there and just stroll in the morning, or stroll in the afternoon, or stroll in the evening with their kids or by themselves or whatever, or walking their pets. In fact, it's a favorite pet destination too. So the Indiana Mile has a huge demand to it because it's exactly 1 mile, and everybody gets around and says, I've done 1 mile. This is really good. I'm feeling good. And then they can go to Dairy Queen, which is across the street.
Of course.
The same with the Maple Avenue Nature Park. We created that 1 kilometer loop, and it attracted a whole new set of patrons that we've never attracted before. We've got a lot of people from Union Hospital that are in weight loss programs or in health programs, Get Fit programs, that are going over there, and they're doing 1 to 2 loops of that 1 kilometer loop, and they're calling that their workout for the day. Or people are going around there with their kids in little strollers or big wheel bicycles or things like that. So it's become what I would call a family trail, a family and a fitness trail, which is absolutely perfect. That's something we set out to do, but when you plan these things, you never know how people are actually going to use them. But this red line going north is a historic College Park pathway. And it goes north, intersects Maple Avenue, and then we've got 2 loops up there. One's in College Park and the other one's in the nature park itself.
People don't even know how good they are and that they want them until
you build it. And once we build it, they say, more, sir, more. We want more.
And right about the time that all the taxes get cut.
Yeah, by 33%, no less. Our park budget has been slashed 33% over the last 3 years because of the property tax cap. And I don't call it a cap, I call it a cut. Because if you lose 33%, I think we were at something like 5.5 million, and we're down now to about 3.6, 3.7 million for the Parks Department. And in that time frame, I mean, you've got inflationary factors where costs are still going up, particularly for petroleum, for mowing, energy costs are up. But at the same time, too, we're adding, I'm the bad guy, I'm adding trail systems to the system, and we're adding new park facilities, new park places actually for people too. So we're undergoing a dramatic shift right now in terms of what we're going to do with the park system. We're taking a hard look at, okay, do we have excess facilities that we may have to dispose of or trade off or do a land swap or something like that. And then we also started building in an endowment 3 years ago too. And that's something we had not focused on prior to this time. But building an endowment for the trail and greenway system is absolutely essential if you're going to keep it here in perpetuity for the next 50 to 100 years. The threads. The trail leads to confidence, business investment, community investment, health, education, other amenities going along in that area. Infrastructure investment leads to a more sound industry, keeping the industry in town. It gives confidence to the neighborhoods. Their kids can get to school in a safe and efficient manner. It gives alternative relief for transportation and healthy outdoor active lifestyles. And then we've used brownfields, going after brownfields to turn those into trail and park facilities too. So we're reclaiming everything back for nature.
Amazing.